What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of On the Block. Igor and Joe, November 28th. I just wanted to touch base on some free agent signings. Raptors did lose Serge, but we re-signed Fred, which kind of surprised me more than anything, especially after that draft pick that we had that seemed like Fred's replacement. Still have Kyle Lowry under contract for one more year. We'll get into that as to, if we think we're going to keep him or maybe trade him at the deadline. So we have some guard depth, but we signed Aaron Baines. A 2-year deal, which, providing he stays healthy, I think that's a really good pickup. But I'm not really sure, like I said, other than their other front court spots, Boucher came back.
Got Alex Len.
Alex Len is short of some depth, but we still, I think, need maybe another front court piece, right? Like another power forward, small forward.
Well, I mean, based off of what happened in the offseason, I think we lost, Rondé. I don't know if Rondé signed.
Rondé hasn't signed yet.
I mean, you can't really say that the Raptors got better this offseason because you lost Serge, you lost Mark. Mark at this point, we were talking about it off camera. I don't know how much Mark's got left in the NBA. I think the Lakers is a nice spot for him because there won't be much expectations for him to do much of anything at this point. The offense goes through. It's going to go through LeBron, going to go through AD. We're going to get to it later in terms of Harold and Schroeder. So again, Mark's going to be a bit player, and I think that works out in his favor. So not much there, but when they did make that draft pick, I was a little bit, this could possibly be it. But you look at the fact that Kyle's the age that he is, so he's maybe got a couple good years left. It makes sense that they get another point guard in there, and Fred does play a lot of. With Kyle, so you can definitely give him some minutes there. It looked like they made some pretty decent draft picks in terms of the draft. So yeah, I mean, all in all, losing Serge sucks. The Mufuzzi chef. I did think, based off of the earlier comments by Fred when we were talking about it, that he would leave, but
it was crazy.
But the market dried up on Fred.
That's what I really want to know. What the market was. How many offers he had.
I think I think a lot of teams were really. Again, maybe the Knicks. You didn't really hear as soon as the Sacramento signed Fox to that deal. There was a lot of places that probably were out in terms of. I know, for example, Phoenix, when they brought in Chris Paul, they needed a point guard. That pretty much took away that option there for Fred. That they might have been looking at him there. So I think he really had maybe the Raptors and maybe two other solutions, and the Raptors were a better fit. And he decided, they're going to pay me a reasonably decent amount. He got paid, I think it was 20-ish. I think that was a reasonably fair deal for what he was producing.
It's a lot of money
right? It is.
It's a lot of money.
At times, in the playoffs, if you base it off of the playoffs, I think he had some really bad games in a lot of scenarios. If you base it off of how the whole season was going, he was playing at a near all-star level at times. So it really depends on how you look at the situation. Is he going to get much better from what he is now? Probably not. But like I said, it's not one of those contracts where you're going to be like, well, damn, they massively overpaid him. They probably paid market value or maybe gave him a slight overpay, but it's nothing that's going to cripple them because he's going to be a serviceable player. So it's not to me like we mentioned the off camera, the whole Hayward situation. I'll take Fred's deal over what Hayward got in Charlotte any day of the week, even though Hayward's been an all-star multiple times and Fred hasn't.
Hayward has a big injury history too.
Absolutely. Right? And again, you look at, I'm sure we'll get to Klay Thompson and things like that too. These guys want to get paid, and for a reason too, right? You look at what happened to Klay. He's going to probably miss 2 years. Don't know what he's going to be. You got to get paid because, you saw with Isaiah Thomas, he ended up playing through an injury. He lost probably hundreds of millions of dollars. And now
now he can't get a chance. Now he's trying to for a roster spot.
And that's why when Fred said, I'm trying to get my money. At first, I took it as a sign that what, he's gone. But I can see, and Fred was getting paid reasonably well in his last contract. But you need some financial security, and for them maybe for us give me $1 million, I'll go play in the NBA. But for them, it's a different story, right? So. Sucks for the Raptors, but they're gonna need OG to step up. They're gonna need your boy Slim Doug to step up as a center. And again, he had spurts last year. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit and stay out of the supermarket. With COVID and stuff. Right. He's gotta make some better decisions, but it is what it is. It's definitely a loss. We're definitely a worse
team for sure.
But again, you don't know what the rookies will bring in, right? Like. They did cut Dewan Hernandez.
So that
and
Malcolm Miller.
and Malcolm Miller. But again, you got to bring up spots for the rookies, and some of those guys that played some of those minutes in the bubble were actually pretty good. You might want to give them better roles because
next year's the year to try and get guys roles, right? A
I think
short
it's
season
was it OJ Brissett? I think it was. So guys like
O'Shea
that.
Brissett, he came, but then there was also another point guard they had.
Yeah.
But so the Raptors ended up signing. So Boucher got 2 years, 13.5, and then DeAndre Bembry, who they brought in from the Hawks, 2 years, $4 million. The second year is a team option.
So at the end of the day, they ended up, and then how much? And then Baines was how much? How much did they get Baines?
I want to say it was 10 a year.
Which is pretty good considering they ended up. I actually thought that Slim Doug probably got more money than I thought.
I think he kind of got overpaid, right? That's what I thought, just based on
because
he didn't play many
he's
games
restricted, right? So they
someone
like
would have
really
had
so he would not have. I'm surprised they gave him that money, but I guess they see a lot of potential in him. And again, at times he can shoot, he can defend. He needs a lot. He needs some seasoning, but he's got some potential. And again, a guy that was I think. I'm pretty sure he was like living on the streets or something at one point.
Before
it was
he
a
was,
heck of a story too.
Yeah.
So good Montreal boy. Again.
So Baines got 2 years, 14.3. I think he was the only guy that got a 2-year deal.
So he got
off-season.
7
point.
So he barely got anything better than Boucher, which is crazy.
Which is mind blowing.
That is pretty mind blowing because like Baines had a pretty good year. He was at times for the Suns was putting up 20 and 10. In games, so that's
not often, but yeah. No, I
his
really
market must have really dried up, but that's his agent.
And apparently he was waiting to sign with the Raptors.
Then again, if you look, I think what hurt him too is if you look at like Montrezl signed for no money. Like Montrezl, I think ended up signing 2 years for $19 million altogether, I believe, with the Lakers. He didn't sign for all that much. They used a mid-level on him, I believe.
Yeah, that's crazy too.
So that probably threw the market off for Baines quite significantly.
But then again, who would you rather?
I thought Harold.
Would you rather have Harold or would you rather have KCP?
I would rather have Harold. I mean, I think Harold. For after you lose, Dwight wasn't, but in terms of what they had going, I think Harold, like in terms of he was the sixth man of the year. So you definitely take Harold over KCP because in my opinion, we talked about it, you don't know what you're going to get from KCP, and he's a wing player. I think those are easier to.
He's had enough of the 1-2 0-point games too, right?
Yeah.
So KCP got 3 years, $40 million, which to me is crazy.
Well, that was also more. He's represented by
LeBron, yeah.
And I think he got more money in a situation where he probably got again. He had a pretty good finals situation.
He was in the playoffs. He was terrible in the regular season.
He ended up getting one of those deals where Harold.
Was it the Tristan Thompson type deal? Yeah.
Harold took less. And then I'm sure Harold's going to be in 2 years. He's going to end up getting paid, and then whatever. Because KCP did get overpaid.
Big time.
I can't say he didn't, but again, don't know what the market was for him.
Anthony Davis still a free agent too. Like we're pretty certain he's going back, but still a free agent. What are they waiting for, right?
Well,
training camp starts in a week.
I think he's more into what kind of structured deal he wants. Is if he wants to like stay with the 2 years that LeBron has, things like that. Because I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he decides to go back to Chicago. He is from Chicago. Wouldn't stun me if he goes back.
Once LeBron's done.
Once LeBron's done, and in a couple of years, that things are over, and he got his chips. I think it was a smart move getting rid of Danny Brickhouse.
Oh my God!
Danny Brickhouse was
bad. They moved him quick, and then he got traded right again. So he went to Oklahoma City, and then he went to Philly.
Yeah, so he got flipped quicker than when he was getting robbed out in Vancouver when he was a Raptor. So at the end of the day, like Danny's had some rough luck the last couple of years. But you know what?
Back-to-back champion though.
He was a but then again, like if you look at those situations, like who's that guy that the Bobcats drafted? Adam Morrison. He was a
back-to-back.
Yeah, he was in all those Kobe teams that won all those chips.
I thought he only had one.
He never played. I think he at least got two.
Okay.
But I'll give Danny some more credit than that. But like he had times even when I don't know we crack jokes that he can barely crack in a layup. If he can hit the threes every once in a while, but he can't. His running style, he looks like he's gimped out there.
It's crazy.
It's very weird.
It's crazy. I noticed that last year too.
Court, I think LeBron was getting on him, and then what the heck, you got to get back. He can barely run these days. So I think once they got that Schroeder deal, and I think that was the end of it for him.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, and again, I personally think the Lakers are much better than they were last year based off what they brought in. Losing Rondo stings, no doubt, but at the end of the day, would you take Rondo or would you take Schroeder at this point in their careers? You probably might take Schroeder.
So I want to talk about that. Let's talk Lakers now that we're there.
Okay.
So the Lakers on paper, everybody thinks that they got a lot better, right?
Yeah.
And I'm using the word things.
Okay.
Now we've talked about this in all kinds of sports all the time. Getting and Philly, who we're going to get to next. Philly, all these names. I don't know once you start playing the games how much better Philly got. Sorry, not Philly, the Lakers.
Okay. Based off of what?
Rondo was incredible for them. I don't think anybody's going to deny that.
In
Schroeder,
the playoffs.
don't get me wrong, he had great, and we can compare him to Lou Williams. I think that's a pretty easy comparison. 6th man of the year, not the best defense. He'll get you some stats. I'm talking about Schroeder now. Harrell, there's a reason that the Clippers didn't play him in the playoffs. Defensively, he's not incredible either. Not a good rim protector for the size that he is.
Oh, yeah,
Can't shoot outside of the paint.
Okay.
Right? Now, you look at what the Lakers did in the finals, pretty much LeBron, AD, pick and rolls, pick and pops, all that kind of stuff. They use their size. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, both those guys are gone. You replace him with Marc Gasol, which is undoubtedly a downgrade at this point in his career.
But how many minutes did Howard and Howard would start games, wouldn't play for the rest of it?
Yeah, but then McGee would come in.
No, I mean if you look at
towards the end, McGee didn't play much.
McGee, I think the last 2 playoff series you didn't even see him. Like they were using who was they using at center? They were using Marquise Morris. They were going small. They were using Howard more to do within the Jokic series to get on Jokic's nerves.
Because Davis didn't like guarding the big guys.
Finals, they barely played him.
Well, they didn't have to because Miami's undersized too, right?
So I mean, I'm sure like in certain situations they definitely downgraded on size and depending on the matchup. But in terms of overall talent, I mean, in terms of like let's say
even defending like Danny Green, he was not good in the playoffs. We know that, but Danny Green's still like at least an above average defender.
Sure, and again,
who did they replace him with?
Which is a good one. They lost Avery Bradley too.
Another defender who wasn't in the bubble, but still, yeah.
I mean, you can say it depending on like, okay, so, Mark, the one thing that he reasonably could when he was reasonably fit, he was a pretty good defender. On Embiid and things like that. So you can still use Mark in some of those situations.
But now he's about 36, 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So is he a shooter? And like, is he gonna get you a massive amount of rebounds? I would say no.
No.
But again, is he a huge downgrade from JaVale and Dwight? I mean, I don't know if it's that huge because again, I don't know how much those guys were giving out in the first place. But I mean, overall, I think in terms of content of players, I think Rondo. I think Rondo's a loss for sure. I don't think Danny's shooting was all over the map.
They got Wes Matthews, who on paper better guy, you know what I mean. But he was never the same after he tore his Achilles.
There's that as well. I think Harrell's going to be a dog. I think Harrell will get you 18 and 10. Which is basically all they need from the inside individual.
But he's also going to clog up a lot of space for Anthony Davis inside because he doesn't leave the paint.
And I think one of their biggest issues in the playoffs that I saw is that they didn't have that guy that was without Dwight there. Like there was no fight on defense in terms of getting boards and things like that. I don't think Harrell will need to do what he did with the Clippers. I think if he's that dog on that end in terms of getting boards and second chance opportunities, it'll work. And again, with LeBron and AD, I don't know. Again, until I actually see it and how it'll fit, you never know. Because we saw with the Clippers were going to be fantastic, and then we got way off P and all that other stuff going on. And now now we're hearing rumors that Lou Williams is on the trade block because they want him out of there.
That's a chemistry thing, though, right? And that's the same why Harrell was gone.
Well, we had that same situation. Is it a chemistry? And I've heard Pat Beverly's also on the block. Is it because of that whole situation?
I don't know if he's on the block or they just want to bring him off the bench, which I think he's much better at.
Well, the rumor is that at the end of the day, that those three, Harold, Lou Williams, and Beverly, were the three that were really ticked off about the rest and the whole how Kawhi and Paul George were being treated. So I think if you have that issue with the team culture or whatever, you got to get rid of those guys. So I mean, Pat Beverly is a serviceable player. Is he a good starting point guard for a contender? I would say no. I think you need as a backup point guard. Absolutely, he's got great defense. He can do anything, but I don't think you're going to win with him as a starting point guard.
It's the same thing like if you were starting Rondo for the Lakers last year. Rondo was incredible. Playoff Rondo, he was good. But if you don't have LeBron, which the Clippers don't have, and which then you start asking questions. What's our ceiling if he's your starting point guard?
So in terms of how the team will mesh, you don't know if the Lakers are better. Are they better in terms of talent? I I would say yes. I would say yes. But again, we don't know
how. Once again, that's what I'm saying. The meshing and all that stuff, right? Like we looked at the Clippers this year and we said, oh, hey, Clippers. And then obviously, the bubble changed everything, right? I think that if that didn't happen, the Clippers, reports were that the Clippers were unhappy in the bubble. They just wanted to get home. They're all a bunch of party guys, Lou, Will, Harold, all these guys trying to sneak in girls and all that kind of stuff, right? Their mind wasn't in it. And shout out to LeBron and the Lakers for actually, wanting to be there and win the championship. Got to give credit where credit's due.
I think that the one thing that's the difference between the Clippers and the Lakers is you go to the Lakers now, you have those set, because I'm under the impression that something happens that Davis will be back.
Yeah.
You already have the vocal points of what the offense are going to be. It's not a team like the Clippers that from 2 years ago that was basically giving the Warriors a dogfight because they were all hustle, all heart, and that was what they were. You brought in these two superstars, it changed the culture of the team, and it sort of imploded. You got Doc Rivers fired. You hear all these rumors that Paul George might be out the door. These kind of situations. While the Lakers is different, you're coming into a situation where you're a role player. You're not taking over a team. I think that causes a bit of a difference. You know your role. Like I think Harold ends up being the third option or sixth man, or the third option on offense. I don't know what the future is for Kuzma. I originally thought Kuzma a couple of years ago was going to be a player. He was so bad at times last year. He was sometimes unplayable.
Especially on defense.
On defense, especially. So I don't know how much shelf life he has, but I guess they didn't trade him. They're still giving him some life, but
maybe because there's no market value for him too, right?
That could possibly be it as well. You might not get much, but there's a lot going on, and there's rumors of the Clippers going after Terry Rozier now that they drafted LaMelo. I don't know who they give up on that.
Well, probably Beverly, right?
Matching salaries, because Rozier makes a lot of money, right? And they already have a lot.
Rozier's probably around like 14 or 15. I think Pat Bev's around 11. He resigned for something like that.
I think Rozier made more than that when he was a free agent out of Boston. I think he might.
It was like a 3-year 50 something.
I thought he was almost at Fred money. I think 19 if I had something like that. I think he was at 18, 19. I have to double check, but he's in a position where they believe that. I mean, Eric Jordan loves him. But at the
3-year 56, so he's getting under 20, about 18 a year, something like that.
18, 19 a year. So you look at that situation, in their salaries now, signing Ibaka and so forth, they don't have a ton of cap space. They lost, Michael Green. So they traded,
brought back Patterson for what reason? Nobody really knows.
He likes to party.
But he comes with Paul George.
They traded Shatman. I did like
did you like that deal?
I like the Luke Kennard thing because he was actually pretty
He was
reasonably
good when
he
was playing. He was injured.
Yeah, well, the Luke Kennard for the business when he was actually playing was
and he can handle the ball.
Yeah, so they definitely got something there. Do I think overall they're better? No. My personal opinion, they're not a better team than they were because.
See, but once again, that's on paper.
On paper.
Do you think the chemistry got better and the team got better due to chemistry?
I think the chemistry probably got a little bit better because
new coach,
Kawhi and
Tyrone Lue's in there,
and Ibaka are buddies. What's that whole what it do, baby?
What it do, baby?
What it do, baby? And all that other stuff. And they're boys. They'll get along. I don't think Serge is a problem in any.
No, he's definitely helped a lot.
Except if he makes Kawhi try to eat
scarves.
No, that whole
cow testicles.
That ox, that penis of the ox, right?
On the pizza.
On the pizza, yeah. See, if he does anything like
How
that,
hungry are you?
Then it's a problem. But again, shout out to the Mafuzi chef. He was definitely a character. He will be missed.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Baines will end up being a lovable character. You can already tell that.
I've liked Baines for a long time.
And again, I'm looking forward to what the rookies can bring. I liked what I saw from limited from the rookie that they drafted in the first round. So his name is escaping me for some odd reason.
So me too.
Yeah, the rookie's escaping me, but. All in all, like I said, he looked like it was a steal of a draft pick, and he'll provide something there. So some more backcourt depth.
Flynn.
Malachi Flynn.
Yeah,
Malachi Flynn. Again, I think he was also.
He looked like a Fred kind of clone.
He did.
His game.
He reminded me. Well, in terms of looks, he kind of reminded me of the guy that was on the Cavaliers. He kind of looked like a little bit like Delonte West a little bit.
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah. And I know he's the only person that has a female agent. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
You saw that? That was pretty interesting. She actually the first time a female agent as a client in there. That's pretty cool. But again, shout out to him. He looks like he plays a lot of defense.
He won Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean, the conference isn't the greatest.
Still, a guy that's 6 feet, 6'1" to win Defensive Player of the Year.
And that goes into the Raptors culture and things. And I think the guy that they drafted in the second round was also a pretty good get from what I saw.
Yeah, he went to Nevada. He scored a lot for them.
Scored a lot of shoes, a shooter. So again, if they can find another Norm Powell and late night stuff with the Raptors have drafted reasonably well when Dewan didn't end up being much, but there was a late pick anyways. But you look at Delonte, you look at DeLon Wright. You look at other these guys. These guys have been serviceable NBA players. They haven't really picked a lot of busts. Except for our boy. mean, we call him our boy, but the guy that went to Memphis with Valanciunas, the Brazilian kid.
Caboclo. He just re-signed in with the Rockets.
And I see he's still having a serviceable career.
He's getting a career, getting the paychecks still, right?
He was scoring some points here and there, and so I know the Raptors haven't done that bad for themselves. They're bringing in some serviceable players, but overall, there was the Chris Paul trade to even the Phoenix will be an interesting situation. That makes them a playoff
team if he's healthy, right?
Sure.
That's the thing.
They were lucky not to make the playoffs in the bubble, considering they went undefeated. Booker looks like
he's definitely going to help the culture there too.
100%.
Right? Because they've always needed a guy.
You got Ayton. I think the Oubre trade probably makes them a little bit worse. That helps the Warriors, but a lot of loss of Clay. I don't see them doing much, to be honest.
I think if Curry's healthy, that's another question because last year he missed 2 separate injuries.
Yeah.
If Curry's healthy, I still think they get in the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. That's a really.
Really?
Because if you look at all the teams that if you look at
teams
that are improving, let's say
the West playoff teams last year, Lakers, Clippers,
Portland. So Portland was the 8th seed. Do you think they're better than Portland?
No, but OKC's not in this year.
Well, yeah, OKC.
So one spot opens up, and let's look at the non-playoff teams from last year. Golden State, Minnesota's not making it, Sacramento's not making it, the Spurs are not making it, and Memphis is not. So that leaves us with the Suns, the Pelicans, and the Warriors, right?
Okay.
And you have to think maybe one team here doesn't. Houston also. Who knows what's going to happen with Houston?
Sacramento's got some stuff going. Well, they lost Bogdanovich. Fox is recently.
Fox is, I don't know. I don't really rate that. I don't think they're a playoff team. They signed Hassan Whiteside to a 1-year deal too, right? But I don't know. So to me, I think that OKC is out.
Okay.
And Houston, they're probably a playoff team, but they also
Harden and stuff.
They should be if they're healthy, right? But then again, Portland, who knows? Portland should be a playoff team, but every year we look at a team we didn't expect injuries there again with Golden State. The Pelicans people thought was on the bubble. Minnesota, you think is not.
Minnesota might do some things with Edwards and then Russell and Towns. They got some talent.
No defending too. I still think they're a few years away. The Pelicans, you make a case for. They got Steven Adams too, right?
The Pelicans, you can make a case for whether
if Zion stays healthy.
Yeah. They lost Holiday and so forth. So that stings, but. Overall, so you got Steph, you got Wiseman. You don't know what you're going to get out of the kid.
Well, Wiseman was a potential number 1. He was probably going to go number 1. He's going to be good, and they need rim protection.
Yeah, they need rim protection. Then you're relying on a bounce back year from Draymond. And
I just think Draymond's good if there's guys around that can play.
And then you got Wiggins and Oubre.
Okay, both those guys are 18. They're going to have no problem scoring.
Okay, but
they might. If like I said, if Curry's healthy,
you don't think so?
I don't know. Okay, so Wiseman is a good rim protector. He's good on defense. So that's good. Draymond's an all first team defense.
Yeah.
Oubre's average, and then everybody else is nothing, right? But all you need is a few guys there. I don't know.
So you'll have him in even with Clay out of there. Right? With Clay, I thought they would actually.
With Clay, they're a lot. With Clay, they're a lot. Probably a top 4 pick. I don't know.
It'll really depend on how what the kid does and how Oubre meshes in there and how Wiggins meshes in with Curry. I don't know. A lot of I don't see it how. Again, with Clay out, Russell had some reasonable successes, and I would assume that Wiggins would as well. But they should make. I don't know.
I think Curry played 8 games last season. That's why it's
so you have them being better than Phoenix. On paper, it'd be tough if you got. I think Ayton will improve. I think Paul. I think Booker. It's a tough situation there. I think they'd be again depending on how.
At the end of the day, Steph Curry is obviously a Hall of Famer. He's going to be an MVP candidate again if he's healthy. He's going to score 28 points a game.
Sure.
So anytime you have an MVP guy there, your team's at least in the playoff picture. I said, this is all assuming all these guys stay healthy. I don't want to start saying what team.
OKC's definitely not. OKC's probably going to be finishing the bottom of the league.
Last, yeah.
They pretty much dropped everybody but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So they're going for. They got 25 draft picks in the next 3 years. It's crazy.
I don't know what they're doing with all these 18.
Well, I would assume that they're eventually gonna shop all these picks to get guys, right? They'll put in the team.
Maybe put in a Paul George type offer or something, right?
And stuff. Well, again, like I said, really they potentially can move all those picks to get better players. Obviously, right? I wouldn't make all those selections. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, you never know depending on the draft. There's gonna be some draft capital there.
So let's get to Houston. Houston lost D'Antoni, obviously, as their coach. So they got Harden, Eric Gordon, who's still there, that's hurt all the time. Westbrook. You think Westbrook stays the whole season? Is there any takers for him
I mean,
with that
well,
contract?
here's the thing. I didn't think there would be a lot of takers for Chris Paul's contract, right? And he was able to get
Chris
shipped
Paul,
off.
yeah.
But
At least Chris Paul can still play at a high level.
I mean, if you want me to I would have said that Jordan and Charlotte might have gone in on Westbrook, but now with LaMelo, that's probably not going to happen. And by the way, we're going to probably discuss that at some point. The brilliance that it ends up being LeVar with Michael and Charlotte with his prime
poetic justice.
Poetic justice. All that, and again,
imagine they're best friends now.
I've never been the number one Michael Jordan defender on this podcast because I'd probably be number 3 out of anybody here. But there's no way. I think Michael would have beat him blindfolded, and that's just honest. Of course. Like Michael, there was that his discussions, my kid's gonna be better than Steph. I'll give him credit. Credit.
Two kids drafted second overall,
drafted in the second situation. Do I believe that at the end of the day he tries to take a lot of the publicity from his sons? Absolutely, and I don't like it. I don't like the.
He has taken it down a notch.
He has because he's no longer in the prime markets of LA, and his kids probably told him, "Hey, Dad, you got to back off." And again, he's done great things for his kids. I'll give him full credit, but he definitely is one of those type of dads that he made the practice rosters on the NFL team didn't amount to much, and he's living vicariously through his kids, and that's just the reality of it. But I would love to see that first meeting between him and I would love that to be televised. And just be a situation where Michael with his 50-year-old pot belly just tells him to get in the court and just takes him to school. Because I still think he would, even
What's the quote from The Last Dance where he says when before that motivated me or something like that?
Yeah,
he said, what's his quote?
About
Michael before he goes. Pretty much he's like, and then someone challenged me.
Yeah, well, I think that that's that. There's rumors that Michael would actually tell that to the media, but a lot of that was made up. Like he would pick out some scrub on one of the other teams and be like, "Yo, this guy talked down to me."
He said he was a better player than me, or something like that.
And a lot of that stuff, no one thinks that actually happened, but he used that as personal motivation to take guys down. And I would love just to see, even if it was a charity situation, of him taking on LeVar one-on-one. And if LeVar could even manage even a point or two, I'd be surprised. In the sense that I don't know what kind of shape Michael's in. He is 50 years old after all, but man, there's no chance. And that's one of those arguments that forget guys like Skip, for example, the 2-point players in the NBA talking trash to NBA players. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But
that's what the line is. I just found it.
What is that? Is that what the line
was?
No,
the line is when he's okay. So in this example, he says Clyde was a threat. I'm not saying he wasn't a threat, but being compared to him, I took offense to that. That's what it is.
Yeah, and that's Clyde Drexler.
And I took offense to that. He was on the dream team.
He was on the dream team. Drexler was a very good player, but
I took offense to that
because they were comparing him in that series. And then again, that can get us all about the finals matchups, and then that can
we're not going to get into
on a whole other show. Clifford Robinson as a second man, Terry Porter, no, come on.
But where's the G? Okay, let's go Rockets. So Rockets, like we were just talking about, still have Harden, still have Westbrook. They bring in Christian Wood from Detroit, who looked really good last year.
Yeah, I didn't understand the trading of Covington. I thought he did a great job. I didn't get it. I don't know. I guess they were giving.
They got back their first round pick for him.
But I thought he played well. That was to me that was a sign of throwing in the white flag.
You think so? I think with that it was more so like D'Antoni was gone.
They got no size.
The GM was gone too, and the whole thing with both those guys is they were all in on the small ball. Now the GM and the coach are out, and now they're going to go more traditional. You bring in Wood, who's a power forward, and Cousins, who's hungry now after not playing for 2 years. So you go with the traditional lineup now.
But how much does Cousins really have left with all those leg injuries?
I don't know. What do you think?
Not much. Like if you're banking on Cousins being
you don't think he'll get you 15?
Your starting center. I don't know what with all his injuries. I don't know same thing with Clay, and I'm knock on wood. I'm hoping that Clay could simply be again Derrick Rose has recovered reasonably, but Clay may never be the same player he was.
It's worse with guards. I feel because Achilles I think is the worst ligament injury to have.
The one thing that Clay has that a lot of these guys is that he's an exceptional shooter. So he'll make a niche in the NBA because he's a phenomenal shooter. But will he be able to be that lockdown defender that he was and be what he was at that levels? Time will tell, but even Cousins, big guys, he wasn't very mobile to begin with.
That's why I'm not really concerned, though, right? I'm more concerned. But if you're a guy like Westbrook or Rowe, if you're a really athletic guy, Kobe, that's what forced Kobe to retirement. He would have still played a few years. He tore his Achilles. Yeah. But rest in peace, obviously. But That's the thing. Like, I feel like with those kind of injuries, the bigger you are, it's not as much of a difference maker because it's not like Cousins is going to cross you over and dunk on you anyways. He's a power guy. He's, most of his defending is body on body. It's strength.
I mean, it makes him a little bit more of a liability on defense, even though he wasn't great to begin with. But I don't know. I guess we'll see how. Again, you never know how guys are going to come back. I didn't think the small ball was going to work at all, anyways, because they were at times they would get out rebounded like ridiculous.
Crazy, and against the Lakers, that's what really did them in.
Yeah, when you're able to shoot the three at a high clip, maybe you can like
get away with
go out. But I mean, at times they were rough on all over the place. But I mean, there were those rumors about the James Harden thing to Brooklyn. I was hoping that wouldn't work.
But do you think do you think that Harden wanted out first of all? Do you think that the teams had contact?
Do I believe that Harden kind of sees that he's not going to win a championship the way that the Rockets are going? Absolutely. Do I think that the Harden situation with KD and Kyrie would work out? Absolutely not. You have three ball dominant guys. I think KD would have been all right with it. I think Kyrie would have been, as was reported, Kyrie would never have gone for it because that system won't work. You have guys that need the ball in their hands. That would have blown up by mid-season. It would have been great.
Providing that those two guys stay healthy, right?
Because Durant that's
interviews.
That's a must-watch. Like that would be a must-watch team because
that would be a good Hard Knocks if they had that.
It'd be absolutely entertaining because you got three of maybe the top scorers in the league and so forth. But I also don't know. I think Harden is another guy that wants to be the big dog.
That's the thing. I feel like if Harden said, I want to go to the Nets, he's conceded that he's not going to win with his team. Second of all, conceded that he's not the best player on a title team because that would have to be Durant. I don't know. That's just a sign of like throwing up the white flag. Like, let me kind of piggyback off someone and get another ring, which has been done multiple times.
Oh well, yeah, and I would say that you can make the case that with Steph Curry coming off of MVPs that Durant did that for a good portion, depending on your thoughts. Now, most people will probably take Durant over Curry in most situations, but at the end of the day, like Curry was coming off some MVP type level seasons, so. And we all knew that Durant didn't feel comfortable in Golden State because it was never going to be his team. So can you be the big dog on the team if it's never your team? I would argue not. In those circumstances, so I don't think Harden would have worked out there. I think Harden need a change of scenery. I think he took offense to I think a couple of things that the Rockets owner was saying at some times, but I don't see like the way that they're right now. They're not going to win that Western Conference. I think when they finished 4th or 5th last year,
tied for 4th.
They probably bottom out now to probably 6th place. I would say.
One game really. So Dallas had 43 wins. They had 44.
Yeah, Dallas with everyone healthy will probably be better.
Powell's probably coming back.
And I would probably say that if Portland has a whole year of Nurkic, they probably will be better too. And they get what they get from Dame and CJ. So.
You think there's a chance Houston doesn't make the playoffs?
No. I don't think there's a chance there because I think Harden's too good of a scorer, and he'll take over with too many games for them to have that kind of record. He'd have to be one of those situations where he get injured significantly, and Harden would have missed like 30 games or tear something up. But he's such a dominant offensive player that I can't really see that. He's built to be a regular season scorer. In the playoffs, when D gets a little tougher, it's a little different situation, but in the regular season.
And I want to talk about that too. So I think that even the reason why you don't see too many free agents really signing their big guys. I know that Wood did because he got paid, and that's more so maybe like the market and that kind of stuff.
That was a weird situation. I figured like he did some things for Detroit that I didn't understand.
Okay, so we can talk about that too. So Jeremy Grant gets 3 years, $60 million, which a lot of people were surprised at. I'd rather have Wood. I've never been a Jeremy Grant. Like, I don't think he's incredible. He's overachieved in his career. He's good. And he's not worth $20 million. So Detroit essentially, unless Wood says, "Hey, I'm out," he says, "I'm packing. I'm not."
I thought Detroit was trying to get Casey fired from the stuff that they did. In my honest opinion.
Really? Well, they gave him like a 5-year, 6-year deal, so he's not really going anywhere.
I don't know. Like, I have no idea.
They brought in DeLon Wright.
I thought Wood was one of the core guys. They're one of their shining young guys. Didn't make any sense to not qualify the guy. So. Then I don't know what they were doing.
I guess they really like
what else did they? Who were they throwing money at?
Nothing. So they ended up getting rid of Kennard too,
yeah,
right?
Which is another.
Blake Griffin, supposed to be coming back. He's always hurt. They always say he's in the best shape. And then DeLon Wright, I guess, is starting at point guard for them, right?
Which is
next Raptors comes back. Right?
I love DeLon, but like if he's starting a point guard for you, you're in a lot of trouble. He's a serviceable like 7th, 8th man off the bench, but I don't know, as a starting point guard for an NBA team, shout out to him. And maybe he needs the opportunity and he shows something. But I can't.
Well, they drafted actually Killian Hayes, the
Awesome.
French American
Awesome,
guy.
man, brother.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So they took him. Where did he go? I think it was like 6th or 7th overall. So I guess he'll start at point guard, and then DeLon can play the two with him.
My favorite was the Knicks taking another, like, it was another power forward, but it was about like 12 power forwards on the team.
But you know what? I think that's one of the few picks that they'll actually get. That he is what he is.
This is a dunker.
Not even that. Like that he's gonna bring that. He's almost like a Harrell, a more athletic Harrell and a bigger Harrell.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's gonna bring some, some race
Obi
some butts
Toppin.
Weird ass, a weird name. All in all, he'll put some butts in the seats. I mean, he looks like he's a
no
guy
seats this year, but yeah.
No seats this year, but he'll be a guy that big dunker. He'll light up the stage, but we'll see what he does. He was a guy that I don't think was that highly touted at the beginning of the year, but
he didn't have many scholarships.
Raised up his levels by what he did. And again, I didn't particularly think that this year's draft class was all that great, but I mean, you got a guy that went first overall that said he'd rather be in the NFL. So I mean, that pretty much tells you
madness this year.
That to me was an absolute, like, if that turns into a bust of a pick, like that there was just writing on the wall all over the place. A guy that, I mean, I don't know what goes through a person's head. You know where you're supposed to be drafted, even if you have these somewhat beliefs or whatever. You don't say that
out loud in front of a microphone
when you're because that literally, maybe if he was some kind of a different talent, he could have completely tanked his draft. If teams got to thinking that this guy, he's already showing us that this guy's not going to put in the work to become anything.
And this is Minnesota, who drafted Wiggins and drafted Towns, two guys with questionable work ethic, first overall as it is.
Exactly. So that goes into a point where, like, this guy would rather be in the NFL. He's gonna be another Anthony Bennett or another Kwame Brown. Like, it's just, like, to me, maybe it works out that maybe the kid, but you just don't. Like, even if I was his agent, like, shut the hell up. Like, what are you doing?
It's crazy because I've noticed and we can talk about
that reminds me of the NFL guy that started blazing up on social media before the draft
with the mask, right?
With the mask,
yeah,
and it
exactly.
tanked his freaking. I think it tanked his draft status.
I thought that was the guy that the Texans just traded for.
It was. Larry, I think it was Larry Tunsil.
Larry Tunsil.
Yeah, it was Larry Tunsil. And
they leaked the video right before.
Yeah, it was.
What was I gonna say?
I think we're on Detroit before I went on that.
Oh no, what I was gonna say is Terrence Davis. What I've noticed with NFL, so NFL players are their own beasts in terms of certain stupidity, doing things like physical abuse, verbal abuse, whether it be children, wife, other guys, DUIs. You don't see that too much in the NBA. What I've noticed, this is just whatever, is most of these guys are football players for the most part, which Anthony Edwards was a football player. And for whatever reason, from the South in the States, like Edwards is from Georgia, Davis is from Mississippi, like all these guys, I feel like in the Southern states, they're football guys, and they don't make the best decisions. Random thought, but that's just what I picked up.
If you look at it, I mean, even if, let's say, he did it, he did enjoy it, wanted to be Anthony Edwards, he wanted to be in the NFL. The writings on the wall that from people that you speak to or his agent or whatever, that they'd be like, well, you're going to be a number one pick
there, or
you might end up being like a 4th or 5th rounder with no guaranteed money. What do you do? So I mean, we had a situation with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a high draft pick in baseball, and he chose to go play football. The Cardinals guy, I'm spacing. The Cardinals QB,
Kyler
Murray, another high draft pick in the MLB.